Scientists just discovered that your brain physically changes shape when you're lonely. And after 70, this transformation happens faster than anyone imagined. But here's what's really disturbing. Most people experiencing this dangerous rewiring have no idea it's even happening to them. Margaret sits in her living room every Tuesday, watching the clock tick past 3 o'clock. Her daughter lives just 20 minutes away. Her son calls every Sunday without fail. The neighbors wave when she waters her flowers. Yet something feels missing, a hollow ache that creeps in during quiet moments. She's not alone in this feeling. 1 in 3 adults over 70 report feeling lonely on a regular basis. That's roughly 15 million people in America experiencing the same quiet struggle Margaret faces. But here's what catches most people off guard. Loneliness after 70 isn't really about being physically alone. You can feel lonely at a family barbecue surrounded by grandchildren. You can feel lonely during holiday dinners with everyone chattering around the table. The strange truth? Loneliness lives inside your head, not in your social calendar. Real loneliness happens when the connections you crave feel missing or shallow, when conversations revolve around weather and medication instead of dreams and memories, when people treat you like you're fragile instead of interesting. Then there's the brutal reality of aging itself. Friends start disappearing, not by choice, but because life has other plans. Dorothy from book club passes away suddenly. Frank from next door moves to assisted living 3 states away to be near his kids. Your spouse of 47 years is gone, and half your daily conversations vanish overnight. These losses hit differently than losing friends in your 30s or 40s. Back then, you could easily make new friends at work or through your children's activities. After 70, the opportunities shrink dramatically. Modern life makes this worse. Families scatter across the country chasing jobs and opportunities. Adult children juggle demanding careers, their own kids' schedules, and aging parents. Well, they try their best, but daily visits become weekly phone calls. Weekly calls become holiday check-ins. The mailman used to stop and chat for 10 minutes. Now packages get dropped at the door by someone who's already sprinting back to their truck. Bank tellers have been replaced by machines. Even grocery stores push self-checkout lanes that eliminate those brief but meaningful human interactions. What makes loneliness after 70 particularly cruel is how it compounds. When you feel disconnected, you start pulling back from social opportunities. You decline invitations because you don't want to be a burden. You stop reaching out to friends because everyone's probably too busy. The isolation feeds on itself like a slow-growing vine. But loneliness isn't just an emotional problem that makes you feel sad during Hallmark commercials. Recent research reveals something far more alarming about what prolonged loneliness actually does to the aging brain. Scientists have discovered that the feeling of being disconnected triggers specific changes in brain tissue, changes that look remarkably similar to the early stages of serious cognitive decline. The connection between loneliness and what happens inside your skull is more direct and more dangerous than anyone suspected just a decade ago. Feeling lonely doesn't just hurt your heart, it literally shrinks your brain. And we're not talking about some tiny change you'd need a microscope to see. Brain scans of lonely older adults show something pretty shocking. The areas responsible for memory, decision-making, and clear thinking actually get smaller over time. It's like loneliness acts as a slow leak, gradually deflating the very parts of your brain you need most after 70. Here's where it gets really interesting. Researchers found that people who feel lonely 3 or more days per week show measurable brain shrinkage within just 2 years. 2 years. That's faster than most people replace their smartphones. But why does this happen? Well, your brain is basically a use-it-or-lose-it organ. When you're socially connected, your brain constantly fires up different pathways. You're processing conversations, reading facial expressions, remembering stories, making jokes. That's a serious workout for your neurons. Lonely brains, however, go into a kind of hibernation mode. Without regular social stimulation, neural connections start weakening. Think of it like a muscle that stops getting exercise. It doesn't disappear overnight, but it definitely gets weaker. Then there's something called white matter damage. Sounds technical, but it's actually pretty straightforward. White matter is like the brain's highway system, carrying messages between different regions. Loneliness creates what scientists describe as potholes in these highways, making it harder for different parts of your brain to communicate effectively, and the weird part is how fast this damage accumulates. A major study followed 12,000 people, over 50 for 10 years. Those who reported feeling lonely consistently showed cognitive decline at nearly double the rate of their socially connected peers. Makes sense, right? The decision-making problems are particularly troubling. Lonely older adults struggle more with financial choices, medical decisions, and even simple daily planning. It's not that they become less intelligent, their brains just become less efficient at processing complex information. Let's not forget the inflammation factor. Loneliness triggers chronic stress responses that flood the brain with inflammatory chemicals. These chemicals are like rust for neural networks, slowly corroding the delicate connections that keep your thinking sharp. But here's what really caught researchers off guard. The brain changes from loneliness can begin even before people realize they feel lonely. Your brain starts adapting to social isolation before your conscious mind fully registers the problem. The scariest finding? People who feel lonely for extended periods show brain patterns remarkably similar to early-stage dementia patients. The hippocampus, your brain's memory center, shrinks. The prefrontal cortex, your decision-making headquarters, becomes less active. However, not all brain changes from loneliness are permanent. Some can be reversed with the right interventions. Well, that raises an important question: just how strong is the connection between loneliness and actual dementia diagnosis? The research results might surprise you more than you'd expect. We've seen how loneliness messes with the aging brain, but here's where things get really serious. The connection between feeling lonely and developing dementia isn't just a theory, it's backed by hard science that'll make you want to call your friends right now. Multiple long-term studies tracking thousands of older adults have found something alarming. People who report frequent loneliness are 2 to 3 times more likely to develop dementia by age 80. That's not a small bump in risk, that's massive. One study followed over 12,000 people for nearly 2 decades and found that those who felt lonely most days had triple the dementia risk compared to their socially satisfied peers. But here's what researchers discovered that might surprise you. Living alone doesn't automatically spell trouble. You can live by yourself and still have a sharp, healthy brain well into your 90s. The key difference? Whether you feel lonely inside, regardless of how many people are around you. Marriage seems to offer some protection here. Married older adults show significantly lower rates of loneliness-linked dementia, probably because they have built-in daily social interaction. Even brief conversations about mundane things like grocery lists or TV shows give the brain regular social workouts. The timing matters too, and this part gets interesting. Short bursts of loneliness, maybe after moving to a new city or losing a pet, don't seem to damage the brain long-term. Your brain can bounce back from temporary social isolation pretty well. However, persistent loneliness lasting months or years creates a different story entirely. Scientists tracked people who felt lonely 3 or more days per week over extended periods. These folks showed accelerated cognitive decline that started years before any obvious dementia symptoms appeared. Their brains were already changing, shrinking in crucial areas, while they still seemed perfectly normal to family and doctors. Well, here's the kicker that really caught researchers off guard. The loneliness-dementia link appears strongest in people who were previously very social. Those who went from having active social lives to feeling isolated showed the steepest mental decline. It's like their brains had gotten used to regular social stimulation, then went into withdrawal when that disappeared. Then there's the gender factor. Women over 70 report loneliness more often than men, but men who do feel lonely seem to develop dementia faster. Nobody knows exactly why, but it might relate to how differently men and women typically build and maintain social connections throughout their lives. The most sobering finding: this dementia risk from loneliness can't be reversed with medication. No pill exists to undo the brain changes that chronic loneliness creates. Prevention through maintaining connections appears to be the only real protection we have. What makes loneliness such a brain destroyer compared to other risk factors? The answer lies deep in how our neural networks actually function when we're socially isolated versus socially engaged. The biological mechanisms behind this destruction reveal why loneliness literally reshapes our brains from the inside out. Ever wonder why your brain seems to shrink when you feel cut off from the world? The answer lies in something scientists call use it or lose it, but with a twist nobody talks about. When older adults spend days without meaningful conversations, their brains literally start eating themselves. Well, not exactly eating, but close enough to make you uncomfortable. Brain cells need stimulation to stay alive, and social interaction provides some of the richest brain food available. Without it, Neurons begin disconnecting from each other like old phone lines being cut. Here's where it gets weird. Loneliness doesn't just make you sad, it rewires your entire brain structure. MRI scans show that people over 70 who feel lonely for months have measurably smaller brain regions, particularly in areas responsible for memory and decision-making. The brain tissue doesn't vanish overnight, but it shrinks gradually like a muscle you stop using. Scientists discovered something called neural reserve, basically your brain's savings account. Throughout life, social experiences help build up this reserve, creating backup pathways that protect against dementia. But loneliness drains this account faster than a teenager spending allowance money. When disease or aging attacks the brain, there's less reserve left to fight back. Then there's the domino effect most doctors miss. Hearing loss makes conversations harder, so older adults withdraw from social situations. Vision problems make reading facial expressions difficult, leading to awkward interactions people start avoiding. Depression creeps in, making everything feel pointless. Each problem feeds the others, creating a vicious cycle that accelerates brain decline. Let's not forget the inflammation factor. Lonely brains produce more stress hormones and inflammatory chemicals, the same stuff that damages brain cells in Alzheimer's disease. It's like having a small fire burning inside your head, slowly damaging the wiring. Makes sense why chronic loneliness feels so physically exhausting, right? But here's the part that surprised researchers most. The brain changes from loneliness happen faster in people over 70 than in younger adults. While a 30-year-old might handle months of isolation with minimal brain impact, a 75-year-old's brain starts showing damage within weeks. Age makes the brain more vulnerable. Like old pipes that crack under pressure, young pipes could handle easily. Advanced brain imaging reveals something even more alarming. Lonely older adults show deterioration in white matter, the brain's communication highways. These pathways carry messages between different brain regions. When they degrade, thinking becomes slower and more confused. It's like trying to have a phone conversation with bad reception. The most unsettling discovery, some of these brain changes look identical to early Alzheimer's disease patterns. Researchers can barely tell the difference on scans between a lonely 80-year-old's brain and someone in the beginning stages of dementia. The scary overlap explains why loneliness predicts future cognitive problems so accurately. Well, understanding why loneliness damages the brain is only half the battle. The real question becomes whether these changes can be stopped or, better yet, reversed before permanent damage sets in. Good news travels fast, and here's some you'll want to hear. Breaking free from loneliness after 70 isn't rocket science. It just takes knowing what actually works. Regular contact with friends and family acts like a shield for your brain. We're not talking about marathon phone calls or hosting dinner parties every weekend. Even short conversations make a difference. A quick chat with your neighbor, a weekly call to your sister. These moments add up faster than you think. But here's where it gets interesting. The brain doesn't just want familiar faces. It craves variety too. Joining clubs, classes, or even group walks gives your mind fresh challenges. Learning bridge forces you to remember cards and strategies. Book clubs make you think about characters and plots. Group fitness classes combine movement with social interaction. Your brain lights up like a Christmas tree when it encounters new people and experiences. Then there's something most people overlook entirely. Hearing and vision problems don't just make life harder, they fuel loneliness directly. Can't hear clearly at family gatherings? You start avoiding them. Trouble seeing faces across the room? Social events become stressful instead of fun. Getting hearing aids or updating your glasses prescription isn't vanity, it's brain protection. And the weird part is how little social time you actually need. Research shows just a few hours of meaningful interaction per week can slash dementia risk significantly. We're not asking you to become a social butterfly overnight. 3 hours spread across 7 days works wonders. Volunteering opens up an entirely different pathway. When you help others, your brain gets double benefits. First, you're connecting with people regularly. Second, you're solving problems and learning new skills. Tutoring kids in reading, helping at food banks, walking dogs at animal shelters. These activities give you purpose while keeping your mind sharp. Let's not forget about technology either. Video calls with grandchildren count as real social connection. Online communities for your hobbies bring you together with like-minded people. Even playing simple online games with others exercises social muscles your brain needs. The timing matters more than you might expect. Consistency beats intensity every time. Better to have coffee with one friend every Tuesday than to attend a big family reunion once a year. Your brain thrives on routine social contact, not sporadic bursts. Well, what about people who say they're too shy or set in their ways? Start smaller than small. Smile at cashiers. Chat with people waiting in line. These micro interactions count too. They build your social confidence while giving your brain tiny workouts. Quality trumps quantity in every scenario. One genuine friendship protects you better than dozens of shallow acquaintances. Focus on connections that make you feel heard and valued, not just busy. The beautiful truth about fighting loneliness is that it helps everyone involved. When you reach out to others, you're not just protecting your own brain. You're probably helping theirs too. Social connection creates a positive cycle that benefits entire communities. Your brain wants to stay healthy and sharp. Give it the social nutrition it needs, and it will reward you for decades to come.